The clock read 12:14 a.m. when the low fuel warning blinked on Agent Danielle Ford's dashboard. She exhaled sharply, glancing around the empty stretch of road cutting through the outskirts of Mobile, Alabama. The night was thick, the air heavy with southern humidity and the scent of pine trees and old gas fumes. Danielle's Dodge Charger hummed quietly as she coasted into the only gas station she'd seen in miles. Benny's Stop and Go, its flickering fluorescent sign casting a dim, sickly glow over the pumps. It looked like the kind of place forgotten by time. One pump worked. The convenience store was open barely. The lot was empty, except for one sheriff's cruiser, parked at an angle, its high beams illuminating nothing in particular. Danielle wasn't in her uniform. Not tonight. The FBI agent had just finished a long conference in Pensacola, 3 days of seminars, team briefings, and thankless diplomacy. Her navy blazer and ID badge were in her bag. She'd changed into jeans and a gray hoodie, pulled low over her curls. She looked like a tired woman traveling alone. But to some people, that look, black, alone, and tired, wasn't just neutral. It was threatening. She parked next to the pump, stepped out, and swiped her card. The beep confirmed authorization. The pump clicked, and gas started flowing. She barely had time to breathe before a voice cut through the night. "Hey, gas station's closed, sweetheart." Danielle turned. 2 white deputies had exited the cruiser. One leaned against the hood with a toothpick in his mouth. Deputy Raylan Frost, lean, tanned, late 30s, with the arrogance of someone who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. The other, Deputy Colton Vance, was bigger, bulkier, and meaner looking. His buzz cut gleamed under the lights. He had the swagger of a man used to getting away with anything. Danielle raised an eyebrow. Pumps working, stores open. Vance started walking toward her. "Don't play smart. This ain't your neighborhood. Show me some ID." She held up her hand slightly peaceful. "Is there a problem, officer?" "You're loitering. That's problem enough." "I'm getting gas. That's not loitering." "I said ID." Her fingers itched toward her jacket, where her badge was tucked away in a zipped pocket. But she stopped herself. She'd been here before. Different town, same story. Flash the badge too soon, and they'd claim she was arrogant. Too late, and they'd accuse her of hiding it. There was no winning. "I don't see a legal reason." Vance closed the distance, hand on his belt. "Did I stutter?" Behind him, Frost chuckled. "You're real mouthy for someone alone out here." Danielle took a breath. Then another. Calm. Controlled. "I am a federal agent. I'm asking you to de-escalate." Wrong choice of words. Vance snatched her phone from her hand before she could unlock it. "Nice try. Bet this agent nonsense works on other folks." She held up both hands now, the pump still clicking behind her. "Let me get my badge from my jacket." "Step away from the car," he barked. "Turn around." Her voice was still calm. "This is unlawful detention. You resisting?" It was like a switch flipped. Vance lunged forward, grabbing her wrist, twisting it behind her back with enough force to make her knees buckle. The fuel nozzle fell to the ground, clanking as gasoline dribbled. She winced, not in pain but in outrage. "Deputy," she snapped, "this is excessive." "You want excessive?" he spat. "Keep talking." Frost was at the passenger side now, rifling through her bag. He pulled out her blazer, smirked, and shook it out. "Aw, look, a little costume, real cute." And then he froze. Out dropped a leather wallet embossed with gold, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Frost's grin faltered. Colton?" But Vance was too far gone. He shoved Danielle face first against the hood of the cruiser, ignoring her cries. "You think that makes you special?" he hissed. "That just means I get to play this real careful." From the corner of her eye, Danielle spotted her phone on the ground. Screen cracked, but still lit. She'd managed to hit record right before it left her hand. The holding cell smelled like mildew and metal. Danielle sat on the thin bench, her wrists still aching from the tightness of the cuffs. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed erratically, flickering like a dying insect. Somewhere beyond the metal bars, she could hear Deputy Vance laughing with someone, the sound coarse and sharp, like gravel in a blender. She leaned her head back against the cinderblock wall, letting the coolness numb the rising fury in her chest. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message. She'd been on this side of the bars before, but always from the other side of the badge. As an FBI agent with 11 years under her belt, Danielle Ford had arrested cartel enforcers, negotiated with armed domestic terrorists, and debriefed CIA operatives fresh from conflict zones. But never had she been manhandled by a county deputy with a God complex and a racial chip on his shoulder the size of Alabama. And now, they had her phone, her badge, her dignity. She paced the cell, silent, until the outer door buzzed open. Deputy Frost stepped in, holding a bag of Cheetos and a Dr. Pepper like he was on lunch break. "You hungry?" he asked, mock sympathy in his voice. "You've been quiet? Thought you'd be more dramatic." Danielle said nothing. "You know, you could have just driven on. Nobody told you to stop here." She stepped forward slowly, standing just shy of the bars. Her voice was low and calm. "You're going to lose everything. I hope the $50 you make off this cartel pay grade is worth it." Frost paused mid-chew. "What'd you say?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. His smugness flickered. Behind him, another voice called out, "Sheriff says no phone call. She's not booked, just holding." "For what?" Danielle snapped. "What am I being held for?" No one answered. Meanwhile, 150 miles away, Quantico, Virginia's special agent in charge Miles Becker, rubbed his eyes and stared at the monitor. Danielle's GPS had stopped updating 3 hours ago. Her last check-in from Pensacola was routine. She was expected back by morning. But now? Radio silence. He tapped a few keys, pulling up a location ping from her bureau-issued phone. "Mobile County Sheriff's Office," he muttered. "What the hell?" He picked up the phone and dialed their front desk. "This is Agent Becker, FBI Internal Affairs. I'm trying to reach one of my agents, Danielle Ford. She's not responding." "Don't know her," came a slow drawl from the woman who answered. "Ain't nobody here by that name." Becker's voice hardened. "Run the name again, now." Click, the line went dead. Becker stood up. "Get the mobile SAC on the phone. Pull her last case log, and someone get eyes on that precinct. If Ford's there, I want her out." Within the hour, 2 Bureau Suburbans screamed down I-65 with a tactical team en route. Tout de brace. Back in Mobile, Danielle sat quietly as the holding cell door finally buzzed open. This time it wasn't Frost. It was a thin, older black man in a worn deputy uniform, Sergeant Lionel Price. He didn't look like he belonged here. His eyes held too much weight. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet but firm. "Come on, Agent. You've got a phone call." Danielle blinked. "You know who I am?" He nodded. "I've seen you at the regional meetings. You don't forget a woman like you in a room full of suits." He handed her a prepaid burner phone, not department issued, and turned away as she dialed. The call connected in 2 rings. "Becker." "It's Ford," she said. "Jesus Christ, are you okay? Talk." She kept it clinical, factual, just the way she'd been trained. "Detained. Mobile County, no charges filed, no access to ID. Deputy Colton Vance and Raylan Frost. Unlawful arrest, physical assault, possible internal corruption, suspected cartel ties." Becker was already moving. "Stay there. Do not escalate. Tacticals en route." Danielle let out a slow breath. They've already escalated. 27 minutes later, chaos erupted in the sheriff's lobby. Black SUVs rolled in like thunderclouds. Agents in windbreakers and vests swarmed the front entrance. "FBI, clear the area." Sheriff Dwayne Barnes, a rotund man with a permanently red face and a stubborn jaw, burst from his office, eyes bulging. "What the hell is this?" Becker walked straight up to him, badge raised. "We're here for Special Agent Danielle Ford. Where is she?" "I don't know anything about." "Don't lie to me." From down the hall, Danielle stepped forward, escorted by Sergeant Price. Her clothes were wrinkled, her wrists still red, but her spine was straight. She didn't say a word, just locked eyes with Frost across the room. His face had gone pale. Becker turned back to the sheriff. "You just messed with the wrong woman. You assaulted a federal agent and obstructed a federal investigation." Barnes looked like he might pass out. "She never showed ID." "You took it," Danielle said calmly, "along with my phone, my gun, my rights." Becker's voice was thunder now. "I want every copy of surveillance footage from this building. I want all patrol logs for the last 48 hours, and I want deputies Frost and Vance in handcuffs. Now." Frost backed up a step. "You can't do this." "Watch me," Becker snapped. By the time the sun rose, Frost and Vance were in the back of 2 separate Bureau SUVs, headed for federal holding. Danielle stood on the sidewalk, the Alabama heat already pressing down. She looked up at Becker. They thought I was a cartel. What? They weren't just power tripping, she said. They were nervous, scared. I wasn't just some black woman in a hoodie to them. They thought I was a threat to their little operation. You think it's deeper? Danielle nodded. I think this is the tip of the spear. The air inside the FBI's mobile field office crackled with energy. Maps covered the walls, dotted with pins, red string lines connecting locations like a conspiracy theorist's daydream. Danielle stood in the center, flanked by Agent Miles Becker and a tactical analyst named Priya Malhotra, watching a drone feed on a widescreen monitor. That's the gas station, Priya said, zooming in. Benny's stop and go. You were right. No random checkpoint. No regular patrols logged in that quadrant for the past month, except the night you were pulled over. Danielle folded her arms. Because it's not a checkpoint. It's a drop site. Becker nodded grimly. Which means you weren't just profiled, Ford. You were targeted. It was still hard to believe, but the dots connected with cruel precision. Frost and Vance hadn't detained her on a whim. Her badge hadn't provoked them. Her presence had. Danielle turned toward a table littered with evidence bags. Among them, a small folded map with a smudge of motor oil. Her own map, taken from her vehicle the night of her arrest. Frost had rifled through it, probably dismissed it. But to Danielle, it told a story. She pointed at the red circled location in the northeast corner. This route, this was my original plan to get home. It was off the main highways, but efficient. I only changed course last minute because of traffic near Pensacola. So? Becker asked. So how would they know to wait at Benny's unless they knew I'd changed routes? Becker frowned. You're saying they had your route? Danielle's expression darkened, or someone leaked it to them. That was when the internal affairs spiral began. The FBI's cybersecurity division swept Danielle's devices. Her GPS tracker showed a remote access signal, one that originated from inside the federal network. It wasn't sophisticated, just enough to ping her location and track movement. Priya tapped her tablet, pulling up a set of time-stamped access logs. Someone inside our system authorized a background ping on you 12 hours before the incident. No warrant. No case file. Just a raw query. Becker's jaw tightened. Who has that kind of clearance? Mid-level analyst or above? But we traced it further. It was rerouted through a dummy IP connected to a mobile county clerical login. Danielle froze. Let me guess, name? Priya looked up. Christopher Vance. Danielle sat back, stunned. Brother of Deputy Colton Vance, Becker finished, and an IT systems clerk for the National Guard based in Mobile. Access to basic military and federal networks, enough to track agents. Her stomach turned. So this wasn't just a couple of racist cops. This was a planned hit. As the investigation widened, more threads unraveled. Benny's Stop and Go wasn't just a gas station. It was a money drop, confirmed by surveillance footage obtained from a separate business across the street, one that neither deputy thought to erase. Footage revealed Frost and Vance meeting with a man identified as Rodrigo Almonte, a mid-level enforcer for the Gulfside cartel. The FBI had been chasing Almonte for years, but he always slipped away, until now. That footage alone triggered a DOJ-sanctioned warrant to raid 3 properties linked to the Vance brothers. At a warehouse near Bay Minette, agents uncovered $2.3 million in cash, unregistered weapons, and burner phones with encrypted messages. In a decrypted text exchange from 2 nights before the arrest, the message was clear. She's FBI? You sure? Got confirmation. Take care of it quietly, make it look random, no ties back. Danielle's blood ran cold reading it. She was never meant to make it out. Danielle sat across the table from Colton Vance, separated by bulletproof glass. The room was cold, windowless. 2 cameras blinked silently above. He looked different without the badge, smaller somehow. His arrogance was dulled by jailhouse fatigue. You've got nothing, he muttered. I didn't kill you. Danielle didn't blink. Because I survived, not because you didn't try. He leaned forward. You think you're better than me? I was doing my job, protecting this place. From me. From all of you, he spat. And just like that, the mask slipped. There it was. The rot. Danielle stood, gathering her folder. You'll have time to think about that in federal prison. 25 years minimum. He sneered. I'll walk. My brother. Your brother's in federal custody. Your entire operation is crumbling. This wasn't a mistake, Vance. This was treason. She left him there, shouting after her, his voice bouncing off the concrete. Back at the field office, Sergeant Lionel Price stood waiting in the lobby. He looked tired, worn, but something about him glowed. Pride, maybe, or guilt. Danielle approached him. "You saved my life," she said quietly. He shook his head. "Just did what was right." "That's not common around here." Price hesitated, then reached into his coat and pulled out an old manila folder. "This was my nephew, Julius Prince. He was pulled over by Frost last year, never made it home, ruled out an overdose. I knew it wasn't true." He handed her a copy of the coroner's report. Danielle scanned it. Something wasn't right. Time of death 11:32 p.m. Arrest record 12:01 a.m. How was he dead before they arrested him? Danielle met Price's eyes. "You just opened the next case." Within a week, the dominoes kept falling. 4 more deputies were implicated. A second gas station, a warehouse, a fake car dealership was used to launder cash through auctions. Each layer revealed not just corruption, but collusion. Some with known cartel ties. Others are complicit in silence. The media dubbed it the Bay Break scandal. But inside the bureau, it was known by something else: Ford's Wall. A growing board of mugshots, maps, and manifests that Danielle built one name at a time. Not for glory, but for justice. One night, weeks later, Danielle sat alone in her temporary apartment in Mobile. Her phone buzzed. It was a video message from Quantico. She tapped play. A young black woman in a training uniform stood stiffly in front of the camera. Behind her, a flag. Special Agent Ford. "My name is Cadet Alicia Monroe. I'm about to graduate from the academy. I followed your case. I've read every word. I just wanted to say..." She hesitated. "You made me believe I could do this, that someone like me could survive in this world. So thank you. I'll see you out there." Danielle closed the phone, her eyes stinging. She'd survived. But more than that, she'd lit a path. The courthouse in downtown Mobile looked almost too small for what was coming. Built of red brick and flanked by twin oak trees older than the state itself, it had seen generations of trials, but none like this. Inside, every bench in courtroom 3C was filled. Press sat shoulder to shoulder with local activists, off-duty officers, and federal agents flown in from D.C. for the occasion. Outside, cameras clicked. Protesters marched, and signs reading "Justice for Julius" and "We Stand with Ford" lined the steps. Danielle Ford walked through the doors with a quiet grace, her charcoal gray suit crisp, her eyes steeled. She didn't come to watch. She came to finish this. The U.S. Attorney opened with a single statement. "This is not just the trial of 2 corrupt deputies. This is the trial of a system that lets them flourish." In the defendant's chair sat Deputy Colton Vance, his jaw tight, his eyes dead. To his left was Raylan Frost, slumped as if already defeated. Behind them, rows of defense attorneys whispered strategy, but the case was already cracking. The evidence was staggering. Dashcam audio of Danielle's arrest, capturing her calm demeanor against Vance's aggression. Surveillance footage showing Frost meeting cartel affiliates. The decrypted text message: "She's FBI, take care of it quietly." Witnesses, both local and federal, testifying to years of excessive force complaints buried by department insiders. But perhaps the most damning of all was the testimony of Christopher Vance, Colton's brother, the IT clerk who had leaked Danielle's location. He took the stand in an orange jumpsuit, his face hollowed by guilt. "I was told it was just surveillance," he said, voice shaking. "But when I found out they were planning to intercept her, I tried to back out. I didn't know it would go that far." "And who told you to do it?" the prosecutor asked. He swallowed. "Colton." "And did he say why?" "He said she was digging where she shouldn't, that the cartel was getting nervous. He didn't want anyone nosing around Mobile." The courtroom was silent. Danielle took the stand next. Her voice was steady, every word precise, clipped like a field report, but laced with something deeper. Resolve, and a kind of pain that had been held back for too long. "They didn't stop me because I broke the law," she said. "They stopped me because I didn't belong in their idea of America. Because a black woman in a hoodie driving alone must be doing something wrong. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't care that I was FBI. They saw a threat. They created one." She paused, letting the weight of the words settle. "And when that didn't break me, they tried to end me." She described the cell, the silence, the bruises, the look in Vance's eyes when he realized she wouldn't be easy to disappear. "This trial isn't just about me," she said. It's about everyone who didn't have a badge to protect them, everyone who didn't make it to court. It's about Julius Prince. It's about the ones who were silenced, and the ones who still think they can silence others. When she stepped down, no one in the room moved, not even the judge. The trial lasted 3 weeks. When the jury returned, the courtroom held its breath. We find the defendants guilty on all counts. The list was long: civil rights violations, unlawful arrest, attempted murder, conspiracy to aid a criminal enterprise. Judge Monica Blake, a sharp-eyed woman known for her no-nonsense rulings, didn't waste words. You wore the badge like armor, but used it like a sword. You were meant to serve. Instead, you were terrorized. And today, that ends. She sentenced Vance to 40 years without parole. Frost, who flipped halfway through the trial and cooperated, received 22 years. As the gavel fell, Danielle closed her eyes, not in relief, in remembrance. Outside the courthouse, cheers erupted. Danielle stepped into the light, met by a sea of microphones and flashing bulbs. But she didn't speak to the media. Instead, she walked toward a small group gathered quietly at the edge of the steps, Julius Prince's family. His mother clutched a framed photo of him in graduation robes. She hugged Danielle, no words spoken. Just tears and gratitude. "He finally got justice," the woman whispered. Danielle nodded. "We all did." A month later, back in Washington, D.C., Danielle stood at a podium at Quantico, addressing a class of graduating cadets. The auditorium buzzed with energy, diverse faces, sharp uniforms, eager eyes. "Some of you will chase bank robbers, some of you will take down terrorists, but some of you will fight the enemy inside the system, and that will be the hardest mission of all." I stood on the side of the road once. A gun was pointed at me by a man who swore to serve, and I made it out, not because I was lucky, but because I was prepared, because I knew who I was. So I say this to you: know who you are, and never let anyone rewrite your story. The crowd stood in ovation, not because she was a hero, but she was proof that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear bruises and keep walking anyway. Weeks after the verdict, a plaque was installed at the mobile field office. It wasn't flashy, just a steel rectangle bolted near the entrance, whose integrity exposed corruption, whose courage inspired change, and whose voice could not be silenced. Danielle saw it once, touched it once, then got back to work. Because the fight wasn't over, not yet. But now, people were watching, and that made all the difference. The sun poured through the tall windows of the FBI's Quantico office, casting long beams across Danielle Ford's desk. Her fingers traced the edge of a small photo frame beside her laptop, a young black woman in fatigues, grinning into the camera, her fist held high in front of an American flag. It was a gift, a thank you. The cadet in the photo, Alicia Monroe, had just graduated from the academy 2 days earlier. Tucked into the corner of the frame was a handwritten note. "I didn't think there was space for someone like me until I saw you make room." Danielle closed her eyes for a moment. The fight was never just about her. It was about the people who never got the chance to speak, the ones who disappeared into systems designed to forget them, the ones like Julius Prince, whose name now lived on not just in whispers, but in change. She stood and stepped to the window, watching the recruits run drills in the courtyard below. The rhythm of boots against concrete echoed like a heartbeat. The storm in Mobile had passed, but its aftershocks still rippled through law enforcement circles across the country. Several counties reopened investigations into complaints long buried. Civil rights training programs were being restructured. Anonymous reporting systems were launched. More than that, faces started to change. Police departments quietly began hiring more diverse leadership. Officers previously silenced by the fear of retaliation now had proof they could speak and be heard. And at the center of it all was Special Agent Danielle Ford. Not a whistleblower, not a martyr, just a woman who refused to shrink. One evening, a small envelope arrived in Danielle's inbox. No return address. The handwriting was shaky. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper. On it, just one sentence. "I was one of the ones who let it happen. You gave me the courage to make it right." There was no name, no signature, just the weight of a conscience finally waking up. Danielle stared at it for a long time, then placed it gently in a drawer beside a growing collection of letters from across the country. Some from fellow agents, others from strangers who'd simply seen her story and found strength in it. It wasn't about praise, it was about proof. That one life, held firm, could shift the ground beneath many. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Danielle visited Julius Prince's grave. The grass had just been trimmed. A bouquet of blue and gold flowers lay against the headstone, faded from the sun but still standing. She knelt beside it, resting a hand against the marble. "They know your name now," she whispered. "They know what they tried to hide." A soft breeze stirred the trees. "And I promise I'll keep fighting so they don't forget." She stayed there a while longer, not as an agent, not as a hero, just as someone who still believed in the country she'd sworn to protect. Even when it hadn't protected her. Especially then. Back at Quantico, a new training room had recently been named in her honor. The Danielle Ford Resilience and Justice Room. Recruits walked past it daily, many unaware of the full story. But some, especially those who looked like her, paused just a second longer when they saw her name. It reminded them that justice is not a passive thing, that silence is not safety, and that the badge is only as honorable as the person who wears it. And Danielle? She never stopped moving. Because the legacy wasn't the trials or the headlines or the plaques. It was the echo of her courage left behind.